Welcome back to another explainer. All right, so we are looking right now at what is undeniably shaping up to be the single most important week of 2026 for SpaceX. We're talking about a true perfect storm here. Multiple, massive, literally company-defining events are all converging at the exact same moment. Honestly, I wouldn't want to be the one buying the coffee for the engineering and finance teams this week because they are going to need a lot of it. Okay, let's dive into this because the stakes literally could not be higher. We're on a ticking clock right now, folks. The question on everyone's mind is simple, but it is absolutely monumental. Could the next 14 days completely decide the future trajectory of SpaceX? As you'll see, we're looking at an incredibly intense schedule ahead. On July 22nd, we saw the company's wildly fluctuating stock finally begin to stabilize. Then, literally the very next day, July 23rd, they're targeting a massive Starship launch. Fast forward just a bit to August 4th, and we're expecting SpaceX's very first public earnings report. So you've got wild share fluctuations, executive warnings, experimental rocket launches, and unprecedented financial transparency all colliding right here, right now. Moving into Section 1, Stock Chaos and Short Sellers. The market jitters surrounding SpaceX right now are absolutely immense. The tension on Wall Street, it's palpable. To really wrap our heads around the severity of this market reaction, we just have to look at one massive number: 20%. Over the past week, SpaceX shares plummeted by more than 20%. That is a massive haircut for a company of this size. It sent ripples of panic through the investor base before it finally managed to stop the bleeding and stabilize on July 22nd. So what exactly caused that massive 20% drop? Well, it really boils down to three things. First, there are mounting fears surrounding that upcoming unprecedented earnings report. Second, rumors of possible insider selling are really spooking the market. And third, there is heavy uncertainty around the upcoming Starship launch. Now, to be completely impartial here, analysts are sharply divided on this. Some look at this drop and see a brilliant buying opportunity, right? While others see heavy, unavoidable risk. But no matter which side of the fence you sit on, investors are undeniably nervous. And that nervousness absolutely caught the attention of the very top. Elon Musk made headlines by directly addressing the high percentage of investors who are currently betting against SpaceX. His message was blunt. He stated, "Betting against the company could be risky if upcoming events go well." It was a direct shot across the bow to a market that is heavily shorting the stock. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the actual mechanics of what Musk is warning against. By borrowing shares to sell them, hoping to buy them back cheaper later, a significant chunk of tradable SpaceX shares are currently sold short. So Musk's warning is essentially a direct threat of a short squeeze. He's basically saying, hey, if these next 2 weeks go our way, those betting against us are going to lose a whole lot of money scrambling to buy those shares back. Which brings us to Section 2, the Starship Crucible. Let's step away from the financial spreadsheets for a second, because the biggest event this week is towering on the launch pad. We really have to look at the recent hardware setbacks to understand the immense pressure here. Earlier this month, Flight 13 was aborted literally seconds before liftoff. Right at the very moment of ignition, multiple Raptor engines failed. It was an incredibly tense moment. But, the SpaceX engineers moved fast. They swapped out the failing hardware, replaced those several Raptor engines, and immediately pushed through a rigorous series of additional testing. It's pretty mind-blowing how fast they can swap out complex Raptor engines and just pivot right back to flight readiness. And that brings our ticking clock right down to this immediate focal point. Target, July 23rd. The engines are replaced, the tests are done, and SpaceX is going for another launch attempt. Basically, everything they have been working towards over the last few frantic weeks hinges on this single date. But you might be wondering, why is there so much pressure on one single launch? Well, this specific rocket is the absolute linchpin for everything SpaceX wants to achieve. If Starship works, it proves out the economics of fully reusable heavy rockets. It's the vehicle contracted for future moon missions. It's the sole vessel for Musk's dreams of Mars exploration. And practically speaking, it is completely required for larger, more efficient Starlink satellite deployments. Literally every path to SpaceX's future goes right through the success of Starship. Moving on to Section 3, the financial reckoning. Okay, so once the smoke clears from the launch pad and the dust finally settles on that July 23rd mission, an entirely different kind of test is waiting: the ultimate financial test. Mark your calendars for August 4th, because this is the date SpaceX is expected to release its first ever public quarterly earnings report. For a company that has historically been very, very private about its exact financials, this unprecedented level of transparency is monumental. Depending on what these numbers reveal, it could fundamentally change everything about how investor sentiment views the company moving forward. So the crucial point is understanding what the market is desperately demanding to know on August 4th. It really breaks down into 4 burning questions. First, revenue. Is it actually continuing to grow at the expected pace? Second, Starlink. Is the satellite internet service becoming more profitable? Third, Starship. Exactly how much cash is SpaceX burning through on this massive development? And finally, guidance. What are management's expectations for the rest of the year? Those answers are either going to validate the hype or expose the cracks. But wait, there is one more massive variable heading the market at this exact same time: the expiration of insider lockup restrictions. Basically, this is a period restricting insiders from selling shares, and those periods are now beginning to expire. If insiders who have been holding on to equity suddenly decide to cash out, it could flood the market with shares. That might signal a lack of internal confidence, potentially driving the stock price down even further. And that leads us to our final part, Section 4, the ultimate catalyst. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole board here. When you step back and look at the aborted flight, the upcoming earnings, lockup expirations, and future guidance, it creates 2 starkly different realities the company could wake up to just a month from now. On one side, a successful Starship mission combined with strong earnings would inject massive confidence back into the market, completely validating their long-term vision. But on the exact opposite side, if we see launch delays paired with heavy insider selling or disappointing earnings, it will almost certainly trigger extreme volatility and a deepening crisis of faith among investors. We're looking at a purely binary outcome here, and neither side is guaranteed. It's an absolutely fascinating junction for one of the most ambitious companies on Earth. Will these next few weeks successfully launch an entirely new era of absolute confidence in SpaceX, or are we about to witness a trigger event for unprecedented financial volatility? The whole world is going to be watching very closely to find out. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you want to keep untangling these massive topics with simple, clear visual breakdowns, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more updates. Catch you next time.